Well, yesterday I was thinking about something I hadn't thought about in, gosh, many, many years. I guess it's been 40 years ago. So, well, some of you guys have had maybe surgery performed on you, and you may, it's really been the last several years, the surgeon will come in and he'll draw something on your arm or your leg or whatever body part they're going to operate on. This is part of this so-called Sign Your Sight campaign. It was used to prevent from people from actually doing surgery in the wrong location, operating on the wrong arm, the wrong leg, or the wrong finger, or the wrong eye, or whatever it might be. And this is one of the, methods they use to prevent those such things. Because obviously, if it's poor form when you replace the wrong knee on somebody, that sort of gets you in a lot of trouble, and rightfully you should be. But this wasn't always the case, and I can point to one of my very first jobs in healthcare. And this is when I was about a 17-year-old kid. I think it was between my junior and senior year in high school. I worked a summer at a hospital. This is back in I guess sort of in 1984, and this is right at the height of when the HIV/AIDS epidemic was started just evolving, and everybody was really freaked out about this stuff. And my job at the hospital was as a phlebotomist. I was a guy that would walk around and come by and take people's blood. It was kind of an interesting job as a young kid. And I remember specifically there was one fellow who actually had the wrong leg cut off, that I was actually had to go up and take blood on this guy. It was an interesting, and I remember his name even. I remember it was Thaddeus, and I remember his last name, which I'm not going to share because I don't want to violate someone's patient confidentiality, but I'm sure he's long dead by now. But he was an older fellow, older black gentleman who was suffering from pretty severe diabetes. His leg was grossly infected and basically kind of rotting off, and so they amputated. In fact, they needed to amputate both legs, to be honest. So it wasn't as big of a deal as you might think, but they had said, we're going to operate on your left leg, and they ended up removing his right leg, even though they were both infected. So it was just kind of an unusual situation. But I remember this old guy laying here, end-stage diabetes. He's probably, I don't know, about 70 years of age, giving me advice on life. And I said, oh man, this guy's got to have a lot of insight. He's lived a rough life. And I remember what he told me. And it was he said it in a very vulgar way, and I won't repeat it here because it'll offend people. But he basically said, look, son, I got something to tell you. You're a young guy. You need to know this information. I'm like, okay, I'm all ears. I'm listening to this. And he told me, he said, hey, anytime a woman wants to have sex with you, never turn it down. It was that was his meaningful end of life advice to me. Of which was of perhaps limited usefulness. And so I thought that was quite humorous. I was thinking about that and the fact that, how I had, gone into healthcare starting way back in the early, 1980, I guess it was 84, and now it's 40 years later. And, some of the things that go into how we do things today, how we made adjustments, how we made improvements, but at the same time, we've gone backwards in many ways. And so anyway, that is why, when you go to surgery now, they'll draw your initials on your body part, in case anybody was wondering about that. And there's other things we do. We do what's called a timeout in the operating room, where, when you wheel somebody in the room, everybody takes a pause and say, let's make sure we got the right name and the right patient, the right procedure, make sure, the consent forms have been signed. Antibiotics, if needed, preoperatively are being administered, so on and so forth. So that was also developed in an effort to prevent, just obviously boneheaded errors, which do occur from time to time. However, I will say that we need to do a complete overhaul of the healthcare system. This is something that, I was recently, not frustrated. I wasn't surprised. RFK was on some show, Fox News or something, talking about how he's going to fix the food to sort of help with the disease epidemic. And, rather than taxpayer funding Ozempic shots for every person, every obese person in the United States to the tune of $1,500 a month for the rest of their lives, which would run into the trillions and trillions of dollars. Like, hey, why don't we just fix the food, get people doing this stuff? And it's interesting to me how many people are adamantly opposed to that approach. They are absolutely plugged in and brainwashed that we need drugs. The only way we can solve it is drugs. They don't even buy that you can actually get healthier by lifestyle stuff. They don't buy the fact that diseases can be actually reversed. They've been literally trained to think only about drugs, 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 more drugs, more drugs. Everybody gets drugs. It's the only solution. We can't fix the food. It's impossible. No one has willpower. And that's, really what we're up against. We're not only up against a corrupt medical system, we're up against a greedy, corrupt pharmaceutical system. We're up against a corrupt, greedy, ultra-processed food system, but we're also up against people who have been propagandized and brainwashed to believe that this is the way, right? That the way is just drugs for everybody. Anyway, so we got an uphill battle to fight, but I'm happy to be part of the fight to do that. And so you can't save everybody, but for the people that we can, we're going to be a stronger group of collective people, and I hope you guys join me. You guys take care.